Hey there. Hoping you can hear me. As usual, let me know that you can. It's Thursday at noon. How is everyone? Hi, Claudia. I noticed you said hello. We've got about 5 people on right now. I'm hoping other people join us because there was quite a few registered. So I hope that today finds everybody happy and well and interested in this topic of intuition, inspiration, and creativity, which is one of my favorites. I did have a request for you to take a look at the poll. I found some quotes on inspiration, creativity, and intuition. Not so much an intuition. It's hard to find the intuition quotes. And I wanted to see which ones resonated for you. They all have slightly different takes on inspiration, creativity, and intuition. But there seems to me, I want to talk about this, there seems to be a kind of core piece around all these three. And that's something that I want to talk to. The other thing that I thought I would do today, which is a little different, and for anybody out there who's a brave soul, is I have the ability to actually invite you onto the screen, and we can have a conversation with both of us on the screen. So at some point, if one of you wants to come on the screen and engage in a conversation or share your thoughts that way, that would be really, really cool. We haven't done that before. So it's pretty easy to do. So I'm hoping that you will, one of you will take me up on it and make it a little more fun. So just in the comments area, let me know that you're here, say hello, and that way I know that you can hear me. That would be wonderful if you could do that. So I'm going to scroll down and take a look at what you've answered right here. So, hey, Jindaya, how are you? There's Joel. Good morning. Hi, Daniel. Very cool. All right. And Claudia already said hi. Again, I'm hoping more people join us. In any case, Daniel, thanks for answering how you define intuition. So Daniel says, a voice that speaks from within, audible when my mind is quiet, emotional state is calm, recognizable by the calm certitude or assuredness with which it speaks. So anyone else have any comments on that? Claudia asked, what are some daily creative exercises? Good question, Claudia. Thank you for that. We will answer that. And we'll see if other people can share some of their creative exercises, and I'll definitely share mine. So some of you may or may not know I'm also a writer, and in a way I kind of consider myself a writer first and foremost. I've been writing since I was 10 years old, and in about 3rd grade, I want to tell you a little quick story. In about 3rd grade, I was, in school, and a teacher told me that my writing was terrible and I couldn't write. Now, understand that my first language was Spanish. It wasn't English. But by 3rd grade, you're fluent in English. So anyway, I was pretty devastated because writing was my way of expressing myself, because I was a very shy, introverted child. And believe it or not, I am an introvert. So I came home crying, and my mother, who is probably one of the wisest human beings I've ever known, I said to her, Mommy, Mrs. So-and-so says I can't write, that I'm a terrible writer. And my mom knew how much I loved to write. And my mom very, very quietly asked me one question that totally shifted everything. And the question she asked was, do you believe her? It's like, wow, do you believe her? And my answer came really quickly. I said, no. Like, why would I believe her? But yet I was having this emotional episode about not being able to write. And then my mother said, so what's the problem? Just keep writing. And I did. And so thanks to my mom, I've published books and I keep writing articles and blogs and things like that. And actually, one of the things I wanted to do was I tried to find her when I published my first book to send her the book, but I couldn't find her. It was a long time ago. Anyway, I think that has a lot to do with being creative and being inspired in your intuition. Because if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't believe in the authenticity in who you are, you're never going to do these creative things, because the world doesn't necessarily say, yeah, go do something that's never been done before and we'll support you. It doesn't often say that. It often says, hey, that's never been done before. You sure you want to do that? Or be very careful because X, Y, and Z could happen. And so I think the real people who are the genius people, and by genius I don't mean super intelligent, but I mean the ones that have the greatest access to their creativity, are sourcing from somewhere. And I want to talk a little bit about where that source is. So I want to ask you, where do you think that source is? Where is the origin of what we talk about when we talk about creativity, inspiration, and intuition? Just write in the comments, what do you think? What do you think it is? Because, when we talk about things getting in the way of being your most creative self, I think there's an answer here for us somewhere if we can understand where it is exactly it's coming from, and then kind of open a space for it to keep emerging. So in the comments area, let me know what you think about, maybe it's your own personal creativity. Where do you think it comes from? Think about that for a minute. I kind of know where mine comes from. And I'm not sure it's the same place, but I will share that. So I'm waiting for you to type, which is why I'm pausing. I'm also checking out the poll while I wait for you to type. You typing? You there? I don't see anything. Are you guys quiet today? Come on. It's almost the weekend. You should be pretty happy right now. All right. Well, I'm going to continue, and I'm going to watch for, there it is, Ophelia. Hi, just joining in. Ophelia, as you're joining in, I asked for you to take a look at the poll and vote on your favorite quote or quotes. And also, if you have a question about intuition, inspiration, or creativity, to go ahead and write it in, or vote on one of the questions that's already there. Okay? Welcome. Again, so I'll share with you what I believe is my source of creativity. And Claudia, what keeps you from being your most creative self? Claudia says daily life, moving too fast. I think that's a huge piece right there. I spend an awful lot of time by myself. I like to be alone. I don't consider alone and lonely the same thing. And that's where I can begin to see the world from a different perspective and listen to that little voice that Daniel refers to when he says a voice that speaks from within. When I was writing poetry fairly consistently, I didn't call it writing poetry. I called it taking dictation, because I could hear it like as if someone was speaking in my head. And my job was to write as fast as possible and capture that poem that wanted to emerge, that was trying to break out of whatever was inside of me and manifest itself. But it was like, in the TED Talk I just wrote down, Elizabeth Gilbert shares a story of one of the poets that she met, how she talks about seeing the poem come over the horizon like a thundering storm and running towards the house in an effort to get to a piece of paper and a pencil so that the storm or the poem wouldn't run past her, so that she could catch it by the tail and write it down. It kind of felt like that. And my best writing happens that way. And oftentimes it happens when I'm half asleep, to tell you the truth, which is why I have my trusty iPhone and voice recorder there. Before that, I had a piece of paper and a pencil. A little hard to decipher in the morning when you're writing when you're half asleep. But I think the reason it would occur that way was because there was nothing blocking it. And so when we talk about the origin of it, wherever it's coming from is finding a place, a way to come out. So all that busyness of life isn't present. There's kind of an openness and spaciousness for it to emerge. And I would say that the most creative people get these kinds of insights, but they work at it all the time. And when I say they work at it, they don't necessarily work at being creative. They work at allowing themselves the conditions for that inspiration and creativity to emerge. So busyness is probably the greatest challenge to creativity. I think some of you may have had the experience, you know, you've got a problem, you can't solve it, you're racking your brain about, oh, how am I going to solve this problem? And then, you know, you're in the shower the next morning, just hanging out in the shower, and boom, you get this, you know, lightning bolt that gives you the solution. Why? Because you're not thinking about it, actually. It's kind of like the thinking comes afterwards. The thinking is the implementer. And this other place, this open place, this place where Daniel says, I hear it, a voice speaks from within, you give it a space to go. You give it a place to go. Any thoughts on that? I'm waiting for your comments, because I don't want this to be totally one-sided. And I'm also going to invite any of you who want to be on the screen with me to let me know, and we can have a conversation that way. So Ophelia says, I'm most creative when speaking to someone with the most need. My mind will be running 100 miles and emerge the best solutions for the situation. So here's a question for you. What is the role of creativity when you say, like, with the most need? So I'm imagining that there's a problem to be solved. And so what is the most, what is it about creativity that allows you to solve a problem? What is it about speaking to someone about that? So I guess I'm asking Ophelia, but anybody else who's had a problem and you're in dialogue with someone else, is that creativity, or what's the role of creativity in that problem solving? So I'm asking a question. I really don't know. I'm not saying I know. I'm just kind of curious about that, right? So is that a mental exercise where I'm analyzing a problem, or is that genuine creativity, or is it a little bit of both? I don't know. So I'm just posing that question for Ophelia and anyone else. So, you know, I see this question from Claudia that I actually will answer now. Oh, wait. Claudia, I am most creative when I visit new places and have new experience. I just got back from Tulsa and then went to the White House Summit Tuesday. My mind hasn't rested. I'm overwhelmed with ideas. My issue is having an outlet to dump all of these creative juices into. Okay, well, that must have been quite. I heard about that White House Summit on Tuesday. I wish I'd known about it before. Somehow I missed that. So there is, oh my God. You're funny, Claudia. So how do you do that? You have all these creative ideas, and they're probably all pretty awesome. So how do you distinguish which one you're going to follow through? Money makers. What does that mean, Claudia? What does money makers mean? This is creative ideas for business, right? So what exactly do you mean in revenue generation? Yeah. So there's a lot of possibilities. So let me explain something about possibilities and opportunities from my point of view. When someone comes up with an idea, typically we interchange using possibilities and opportunities. I actually see them as quite distinct. So I see possibilities. So it's something that is possible, that when it's run through my criteria, and criteria is the stuff that matters to me regarding that particular topic or issue or whatever it is, but my must, if you want. So I take my possibility, I run it through my criteria, and if it meets my criteria, it then is an opportunity. Okay, just a little distinction. So if it's a career decision, I'm taking that possibility, I'm running it through the things I need out of my job or my life, and then it becomes an opportunity. Not every job possibility is actually an opportunity. So I say that to you, Claudia, because take a look at what criteria you're using for revenue generation. What about revenue generation matters to you? And create some criteria about it and funnel all those creative ideas through there. And that's how you'll figure out which ones you want to, which ones might be more viable for you or might produce the best result for you. So Monique says, I'm most creative after a good yoga session. Yes, I feel like that too, because I think it's that kind of opening the space for creativity to emerge. And actually there's a physical aspect to it too. Your body is more relaxed. You've been breathing, you've been oxygenating your body and your mind. Ophelia says, tendency for alternatives in solving problems. Not sure what you mean, Ophelia. Could you say a little bit more about that? Daniel says, I resonate strongly with your comments. Reductive approach works best for me. Haven't found a way to make the intuitive voice louder. Rather, the process has been to learn to tune in and run defense on anything that makes tuning in difficult. Totally agree with you, Daniel. I mean, I think that's absolutely true. I don't think it's a matter of making it louder. It's a matter of listening to what is or wants to emerge, and then figuring out what might block it and moving that out of the way. And so busyness happens to be one of those things. But also one of the biggest things is negative self-talk. And I think I find this especially in women, but not exclusively in women. But you have this great idea, and then you start going into, what I call negative self-talk is all the reasons that I can't do that, or all the reasons that I would fail, or I'm writing a book and it's going to be the worst book in all of history. I've said that to myself. And I was like, I don't think I could write the worst book in all of history, actually. But, when you're in it, you're thinking this is going to fail miserably, and what will they say about me, and I'll never write again, and all this stuff. So everybody has negative self-talk, and I think negative self-talk is one of the things that gets in the way of listening to our intuition and valuing it and actually following through on it. And also the creativity, the act of creating. And I always say creation only happens in the present. Creation doesn't happen in the past, and creation doesn't happen in the future. Creation happens in the moment, in the present. And what happens is, especially with negative self-talk, it takes us back to the past, like, oh, I remember when I did that and it didn't work out. Or it takes us into the future and says, yeah, but if I do this, X, Y, and Z is going to happen. Instead, creation really happens in the present. So whether I'm writing or someone's painting, the idea is promoting that sense of presence that allows you to listen to that, that what Elizabeth Gilbert in her talk calls the daemon or the genius, the little impy spirit in oneself that is the one that's speaking to us. I mean, at least that's what she calls it, can't remember what she calls it, but a little spirit kind of thing. And so, yes, so yoga opens up your mind. Yes, it opens up your body and it opens up your mind as well. So that's always good. So I would like to hit on Claudia's question. What are some daily creative exercises? Please write in the comment area. What kinds of daily creative exercises do you do? And I'm going to share a couple of mine. And my first one is, it's my morning. When I get up in the morning, I actually don't just jump out of bed. I stay in bed. I kind of stretch out. I kind of wake up slowly, wake up my body. And I just really focus on my breathing. It's like my breath is what's bringing me into the day. And I really see that as a way of setting myself up to be creative for the rest of the day. I'm not running into the day. I'm not rushing into the day. I'm entering precariously, as David White, poet, says, entering precariously into my day. But I'm entering consciously into my day, thoughtfully into my day, really checking in with how my body feels, how my mind feels. What do I want to do with today? It's like my intention for the day. What do I want to create today? And so that for me is a daily creative exercise. Dendaya says, I don't do this, but I would love to keep a daily journal. I keep a journal, and I actually prefer to write in it at night, simply because I've gone through a whole day, and it helps me kind of process my day. And what I do is when I'm writing in the journal and processing my day, that's where I might have a new kind of thought, because I'm kind of stepping away from my day and being the observer. So that's another piece around a daily creative exercises is stepping into the observation of life and seeing it from a different point of view, a different perspective, and a little more non-attached to what's happening in life. And maybe interpreting those things slightly differently than you did during the day, or finding another way of looking at it, another interpretation that brings you to another thought or another idea, or even another solution if you're trying to solve a problem, right? Claudia, I don't feel guilty anymore. I sit and think, read, and write. Yes. And so that's interesting, because busy is what we value. But busy is not necessarily productive, and it doesn't actually help us, create the space for that kind of creativity. So I'll share a story with you. I like stories. Many, many years ago, I had a mentor. His name was Pat Lynch. And Pat would say to me, I spend a good deal of my day sitting on the porch and drinking tea. Now, at the time, I was one of these go-getter career people. It was another business I had. And I was like thinking, wow, what a waste of time. Honestly, that's what I thought then. And because he was my mentor, he sort of knew that, which is why I think he was telling me that. And when he said, I just sit there and I drink my tea. And I said, well, what do you do with that? I mean, what are you taking a break or what? And he says, no, sitting on the porch drinking my tea is part of my job. And I said, well, how can that be part of your job? He says, because after I've sat there and just focused on having my tea, my brilliance arises. And what he was telling me was that's his way of making time, making space for that creativity. And he was a writer. He was a personal development expert. He worked in organizations doing consulting. And he would often find solutions on the porch while he was drinking his tea. And it took me a while to figure out what he was saying. I could understand it as the writing part, because I knew I would have to be quiet. When I'm not quiet, I can't write. I just can't. It's too much stuff in my head. So there's no need to feel guilty about whatever you consider sitting on the porch and drinking your tea. And one of the things that I find as an executive coach is trying to get that message across to busy executives. And Daniel, who's on here and also coaches executives, I'm sure can relate to this. Telling an executive, don't fill up your calendar. Don't book every single minute. Go out for a walk. Have lunch and not at your desk. Those kinds of things. It's like, well, I'm not working, and this is a cultural thing, because I don't see this in Ecuador, like where I live part-time, and I don't see this in other cultures. One of the things that I loved about the movie Eat, Pray, and Love was this this set of words. It was called La Dolce Far Niente, and it was the sweetness of doing nothing. And I love that, La Dolce Far Niente, the sweetness of doing nothing. And it just includes so much. It's not just, you know, putting all your activity in the brain. It's also, you know, if you've been to Italy, it's the passion for food, the art, the music, the textures, the senses. It's all of that. And so when we talk about being able to access all of those things, it's the kind of thing where, you know, can you bring all of those things to bear? Can I bring my body, my senses, my breath work, my sense of gratitude to create something new? Whether it's, you know, a new coaching program, whether it's a piece of art, a sculpture, solving a problem, you know, those are the kinds of things we have to include. When we don't include it, when we only work with our mind, it's like trying to walk on one leg. The same thing with intuition. Intuition is that little voice that you hear, but you have to, one, you have to listen to it. You have to know that it exists. Like someone said to me, well, you're so intuitive. How do you know? It's because I listen differently. I observe differently. I try to remove some of the restrictions of it. So another story I want to share with you. A long time ago, before I could find a coaching program, I went and got a master's degree at Lesley University because I couldn't find a coaching program back in, what was it, 1993. And my favorite class was Ways of Knowing How We Make Meaning. I'll never forget that class. And our homework, we had to write a paper, and our homework was to go shadow someone. And to shadow someone meant to be with them, but it had to be someone who worked in a domain that was completely foreign to us. So I had been in the corporate world and entrepreneurial world, so I couldn't choose that. I wanted to go tracking in the woods. That was about as foreign as my office gets. I wanted to go tracking in the woods, and being just completely naive, which was really a benefit actually, I called the second most foremost tracker in the United States. His name was Paul Resendez, and we're still friends, by the way, since all that time. He wrote this wonderful book called The Wild Within, which I highly encourage you to get. And he was a tracker, not hunter. He's a Buddhist. So he would be tracking, but not for hunting. And when I went tracking with him, he taught me how to see, not just look. And he talked about, as we're tracking in the woods, how interconnected everything was. And so if you could look at a pine needle, like I remember him saying this, if you look at a pine needle, he says, you look at the pine needle and the tree, you look at the pine tree and you think you know it, and you don't. He says, have you felt the sap on the pine needle? Have you made tea with the pine? Have you, and he goes on and on and on, and says, do you know that what the roots look like? Do you understand how it feeds itself? And what he was saying is we tend to look at life simply on the surface. And real creativity and real inspiration is not a surface thing. It's looking at the ocean and saying there's something beyond that horizon. It's not all there is, right? It's looking at a butterfly and understanding that once upon a time it was a chrysalis. And it's looking at the sun and seeing a whole solar system. That's what I think creativity comes from. It's the ability to see beyond what's obvious. And I actually see creativity and inspiration and intuition as sourcing from a much more spiritual point of view than maybe what we think, not an intellectual. I think intellect comes afterwards. But I think that thing that arises in us, because inspiration comes from the word spirit as well. And I think that's where the source and origin of our creativity really is. So then what's a practice that we can have that would help us in our creativity? Well, I think it's something that nourishes our spirituality. And whether it's a walk in the woods, time out, getting in touch with another human being on a human level, I think all those things will add to it. And I don't think we should be feeling guilty about taking time out to go walk on the beach or in the woods or have a beautiful meal or cook a meal for someone else instead of going to a restaurant. All those things. So I'm talking a lot. Now I want you to talk. So what are your comments so far? What do you think about all of this? And I'm going to take a look at the polls and take a look at some of your favorite quotes here. So again, for anybody who's new, check out the poll and vote for the quotes that you like. So I'm looking at them right now. Go ahead and write in comments area. I'm waiting to hear what your comments are on what I've talked about. So I don't want this to be just the Alicia show. And if one of you wants to come on the screen with me, Claudia, I'd be happy to have you on the screen. So let me know if you want to come on the screen and say hi and engage the conversation that way. That would be cool. So I'm going to pause. You know, one of the things about this technology is that I have to give you time to type. And so I've had people say that, give me more time to type. Okay, I'm giving you time to type. Some of you who are quiet. So let me just see which ones. So Mary Oliver, the quote, "The most regretful people on earth are those who felt the call to creative work, who felt their own creative power restive and uprising and gave it neither power nor time." This is one of those things. I think that's a really powerful quote, because creativity isn't just, can I draw, can I write, can I paint? Creativity is a way of looking at the world that's, okay, the trite word is out of the box, but what it really means is, can I observe the world from a place of non-attachment and look at what's there, what's available, and see what I can do with that, right? So there's a way of looking at the world, but all of it, not just pieces of it, not just fragments of it, but the whole unity of it, and see what's there for you to create. I also love this quote by Ken Robinson, who talks about creativity in leadership. The role of a creative leader is not to have all the ideas. It is to create a culture where everyone can have ideas and feel that they're valued. I totally agree with that. As a coach to many leaders, a lot of leaders come to it saying, I'm supposed to have all the answers. And that's actually not true. You don't have to have all the answers. You have to be able to open up that space that we're talking about for people to feel safe enough to contribute those ideas that maybe go against the grain and maybe go against what's been done before. So that's the role of the leader, a creative leader. I also like this one. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited to all we now know and understand, while imagination embraces the entire world and all there ever will be to know and understand. And this is what I mean about being able to see beyond the horizon, beyond the ocean, beyond the sun. This is the role of imagination, to be able to see into more, even into what doesn't yet exist. And I think some of the most impactful technologies, like I think of Steve Jobs at Apple Computer, being able to see the potential of the computer as something more, as a way to express oneself creatively, as to have a particular design and not just function. So I think that's something that we can we can role model in our own lives. Here's another quote. If you hear a voice within you say, you cannot paint, then by all means paint, and that voice will be silenced, by Vincent van Gogh. And so there's that negative self-talk. No, you can't do that. Or who are you to do that, right? That's another piece that I hear. Well, who am I to do that, right? Or what will they think? What if I fail? Oh my God, not that, right? But we all have that. We all say that. So what Vincent van Gogh says, no, go ahead. Go ahead and paint. By all means, paint, and the voice will be silenced. Antoine Saint-Exupéry. And now here's my secret, a very simple secret. It is only with the heart that one can see rightly what is essential is invisible to the eye. Again, it's another way of observing the world and looking beyond what's obvious. And Cindy writes, what if I succeed? What if you do succeed, Cindy? Who would you be, right? The thing with your fear of success, or typically what I see in people, maybe not yours, but is you'd have to then really look at your life, because success challenges your point of view of being successful. So if all my life I haven't believed myself to be successful and I succeed, it's pretty scary then to go look at your life and say, wow, I was wrong. I'm successful, right? And so what if I succeed has its own set of fears because it challenges how I see myself. The same thing about failure. It's just the other side. It challenges how I see myself. But until you challenge how you see yourself, you can't see yourself as more than what you've seen yourself. So if I fail 3 times, it doesn't make it impossible that on the 4th time I'll succeed. Just like if I succeed 3 times, it doesn't mean I'll never fail. But there's an ebb and flow to life and to everything. There's always both sides of it. And both sides have the availability to teach us something, right? Mary Oliver has a quote, I can't remember it exactly, but she says something like, someone gave me the gift of heartbreak, something like that. And she says it's a gift, right? She looks at it as a gift because it causes her to open herself up to something more. So those kinds of gifts may be a little painful, or the way we look at ourselves and when we challenge ourselves to do or be something more than what we've ever been. That's inspiration too, right? I'm inspired by something. I'm inspired by the possibility to do or be more, to have a greater impact on the world, or maybe just to have an impact and a change in my life. You don't have to be famous. You don't have to think that, everything you do has an impact on everything else. Sometimes it's the simplest thing about getting my own life in order. Simple, but not easy, right? It's not always easy. So to Eleanor Roosevelt, do one thing every day that scares you. I think I've got that one nailed. Right now, I think I'm doing more than one thing like this. When I started doing this, okay, let me just be honest and tell you about all my self-talk. Like, who would show up? Why would they care? What do I have to say? Oh, God, shall I go on? So I had to go ahead and paint, as Vincent van Gogh says. And I decided I was going to do this and I was going to have fun with it. And it was going to be fun. It wasn't going to be my idea of, professional executive coach. No, it wasn't going to do that. And I was going to express myself the way I really wanted to express myself. And if you're there and you can accept my invitation, then I'm just thrilled to pieces. And if not, that's cool too. I'm good with that, right? And so you get to that point where your creativity wants to express yourself, but only when it's authentic. Not interested in doing anything that's inauthentic. If I'm going to create something, it's going to be from a place of authenticity, because that's where I think the most value comes when we're authentic. That's where we can really connect to somebody else and genuinely connect. Quote by Joseph Campbell, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure we seek. you seek. I think that's also very true. And I think that has a lot to do with, can I step into my creativity? Because, in a way, I'm stepping into an unknown place, and I'm going to come out with something that I don't know will be accepted or approved. So I also wrote my own little quote that I wrote a long time ago for a writer's workshop. As a writer, I must not strive for approval. I must strive for my own truth. And I wrote that because I was getting kind of stuck in my writing. I'm writing a third book. Some of you know that, some of you don't. I already have Manage Your Life Before Life Manages You, and the one before, Everyday Epiphanies, Insights for Living with Purpose. The next one is a very personal memoir. And I have the first chapter written. No, actually, I have 4 chapters written. And it's about what I discovered in Ecuador. And it's got a title that is not your normal title. So interestingly enough, I found that I had to stop writing it because I stopped hearing the voice in my head telling me what to write, and I started trying to write the right way. And I got stuck, and I haven't made enough space and time for it. So I will be doing that come November when I go back down to Ecuador. Monique, I'm most excited when my creative mode leads me to a solution that removes an obstruction or provides access to needed information. I'm most excited when my creative mode leads me to a solution that removes an obstruction or provides access to needed information. So Monique, a question for you. How do you get there? How do you get to that creative mode? What helps you get to the creative mode that leads you to a solution? I'm curious about that. How do you get to the creative mode? Is it something you're doing? Is it something you're not doing? So that's a question for Monique. I'm going to be paying attention to her answer. Let's see. Another one. Okay. The human brain had a vast memory storage. It made us curious and very creative. Those were the characteristics that gave us an advantage: curiosity, creativity, and memory. And that brain did something very special. It invented an idea called the future. And David Suzuki is a scientist, but I see the C word next to creativity called curiosity. And so what do you think is the role of curiosity in inspiration, creativity, and intuition? So I'm going to let you answer it. Come on, guys. Start typing in the comments area. What is the role of curiosity? I'm interested to know. What do you think it is? What's the role of curiosity? I'm looking something up for you. You're wondering why I'm looking at my screen the way I am. While you type, I'm writing. I'm looking something up for you. What is the role of curiosity in creativity, inspiration, and intuition? Because I think there's a huge role. So Claudia writes, curiosity is huge. I find my kids inspire me to be curious because they ask a million questions. Because I've gotten ideas on how to better implement STEM education in the library system. Wow. See, the thing about kids, it's that kind of lack of inhibition around how they ask the questions. They're not saying, oh, is this a stupid question? No, they're not saying that. They just ask the question. And they're curious because they don't have anything blocking that curiosity. They're 4, and they're into physics and chemistry. That's great. That's wonderful. So can't we learn so much from our kids, especially the little ones, before they've become more conformist, if you will, in our educational system. This is why I like some of the alternative education places for education where they really don't teach, but they provide an environment for learning, which I think there's a distinction there as well, right? Okay, what else can you say about curiosity? What else can you say about curiosity? Okay, let me take that. I have a couple of notes. Okay. I think and read deeply first, gathering information. Then, when I do a good yoga session, which includes meditation, I usually find afterwards a highly creative mode that has such a productive flow. Hey, Monique, you know what's really interesting? The other day I was, in my rare moments, I turned on the TV, and I can't remember the name, Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman was doing a show on meditation. And I happened to pause and watch it. I don't remember what the name of the show, because I only watched very limited. But they had him, they did a brain scan on him before he meditated. And then they did a brain scan after he meditated. And when they did, and they looked at the brain scan after he meditated, there was all this kind of redness, like his whole neocortex had fired up. This is after meditation, right? And so I think that's exactly what you're talking about. After meditation or after something like yoga, something that gets us into that kind of meditative state, it is a creative mode. And actually there's research, and again, I don't remember the name of the show, I just remember looking at it, but the whole neocortex was lit up. And I'm sure we can find research on that. So I think when we talk about practices that enhance our creativity, yoga, meditation, mindfulness, these are all about making space for emergence. Claudia says, after yoga, I feel more organized and productive. Yeah, me too. But I feel the same way also after walks, or being out by the ocean for me is a really big deal. Does creativity have to be organized? Does creativity have to be organized? Is there such a thing as organized creativity? So is it a matter of timing? Do you get the chaos that comes from creativity at the beginning, and then you allow it to funnel itself into organizing? So I think, am I making my creativity? Am I making it organized? Am I forcing something on that creativity? Or am I allowing it to flow in a way that is a more organic, not when that flow is happening. I think that's it. Like when the flow is happening, I just let it go. And I'm not attached to having it be organized at that moment. I'm not even attached to it. I'm just observing it. And eventually in observing it, it's like a river, right? If you've ever watched From the Ocean Comes the River, and the river will find its flow and find its way into wherever it's supposed to go. I kind of look at the flow of creativity like that. I think we all express creativity differently. There's creative problem solving that is missing with the millennial generation. Claudia, say a little bit more about that. And if you want, I can invite you on screen to talk a little bit about that. Cindy says, curiosity is the what if. Yeah, I love that. Curiosity is the what if. It leads to discovery. Right. I think that's a great way of putting it, Cindy. Daniel talks about stream of consciousness. Yes. So again, when we talk about the origin of this, when I call it spirituality, I do think it's a place of consciousness, right? And Daniel and I have had conversations around that. So so the millennials aren't able to think critically. I'm not sure. Oh, the sense of entitlement. Yeah. Sense of entitlement. I hear this a lot about millennials feeling entitled. And I think that's a whole other conversation around what are we doing to, how when kids are little, what are we doing that causes that sense of entitlement later on? And so that sense of entitlement stifles their creativity. Well, isn't there a saying, necessity is the mother of invention? Or at least there used to be, and maybe I mishear that. But, you know, we've created things out of necessity. We've had to find ways of doing X, Y, and Z. And that's what we call, it's what we call innovation, right? We call that innovation. So that's an interesting thing. We're able to think critically. I have to think about that, Claudia. Maybe we should do a session on millennials, but I would want millennials on it. You like that? Okay, I'll think about that. Millennials. I'm writing that down, millennials. So I will also want to tell you, let me know what other topics you want to hear about, because I will do it. Now, I will give you a heads up. I'm going to be doing, I think, 2 more sessions like this that are free. And then I think it's going to be, and don't get mad at me, I think it's going to be 6 sessions and it's going to be paid for, okay? A minimal payment for 6 sessions. And all of you who are already registered, because you're already there, you get grandfathered in, so you don't have to pay for the next 6 sessions. You're already in, so don't worry about it. But I'm thinking of expanding this, and I'm waiting for you all to email me with topics you want, because I want to give you the topics that you want. So I'm adding millennials to the list. We're also going to be talking in the future about boundaries. Remember, we talked about that. Personal boundaries, which is setting personal boundaries at work and life. It's going to be a discussion on sharing personal life at work and setting boundaries. I can't remember who asked for that. I think it was Monique, or was it Michelle? I don't remember. But that's next Thursday at noon, June 23rd. I'm also going to be putting in here a link. I am doing a 10-day challenge, and I want you all to take me up on it. 10-day challenge on managing your life before life manages you. So you can go to that link and sign up for the 10-day challenge, and it has a lot to do with what we've been talking about, is making the space for creativity and inspiration, but also to be able to get better control over your life. So you're not busy, busy, busy. You're actually feeling like you're contributing to yourself and to others. Okay? Somebody just wrote something. Monique, curiosity is a necessity for me. It reminds me that there are far more answers out there for discovery than what my head holds. It helps me, it keeps me excited and engaged in life. I so agree with you there. Totally agree with you there. I think curiosity is what makes me a writer. I like understanding how things work. I like understanding how humans work. That's probably what makes me a good coach too. Oops, we have a visitor. Let's say hi. Finn, say hello. Hello. So, yeah, he's in my lap. It's where usually he is. So, Finn is my guru. Finn teaches me the art of presence and unconditional love. Nancy, say hi. And so he's telling me that's close to lunchtime. So we have a couple more minutes. What else do you want to talk about in the last few minutes? And check out that link. I'm daring you to take the 10-day challenge and sign up. And every day you're going to get a very short email on a practice that that will help you stay more centered, more creative, to be able to listen to that voice of inspiration and intuition. And then there's also a couple of little bonuses after that. So after the 10-day challenge, you have 2 little bonuses to look out for. I've got to go a bit early. Thank you so much for another great session. Bye, Jindai. It's just a little early, so. Anything else from anyone? Ready to wrap up? Thank you. Okay, I'll see you next Thursday. It's on personal boundaries. Send me your topics. Send me your topics, because I'm really interested in what you want to hear about. I'll come up with some too. Forgiveness. Okay, I got that one. I'm writing that down, Claudia. Bye, Daniel. Anything else? Setting boundaries at work. That's next time, Claudia. Setting boundaries at work is this next Thursday. Okay? So, next Thursday, boundaries. Be there or be square. Yeah, it's with ourselves too. That's where it starts. Bye, Cindy. Thank you. Anything else? Bye, Ophelia. All right, I'm going to sign off. It was nice having lunch with you. Well, I'm going to have lunch now, but it was nice chatting. Thank you all. And next time I want a brave soul to get on the screen with me, okay? Everyone take care. Have a beautiful weekend. Be safe. Allow some time for yourself. Go walk in the woods. Do something peaceful. All right? All right, bye-bye.